world is trying and failing, so much denying and wailing, fed up with seeking and hiding, analyzing and dividing. It just takes a courageous warrior, a courageous warrior, a courageous warrior of the heart. All that hoping and waiting, never arriving, so frustrating, fed up with lying. Please, no more tricks, no more running. There's nothing to fix. It just takes a courageous warrior, a courageous warrior, a courageous warrior to meet what's here. No limitations, no control, nothing to get, nothing to hold, nothing to lose, nothing to know, nothing to win, no final goal. It just takes a courageous warrior, a courageous warrior, a courageous warrior to face the void.
Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you. And welcome to those who are watching the live stream on YouTube. Unfortunately, I won't be able to respond to questions or comments on the YouTube, but I can look at them later. But if you're here on the Zoom, then I'm very happy to have a dialogue with you in a little while. So today's open meeting is on the theme of how to set boundaries in boundlessness. So I will talk a little bit about that in a moment. Let's first take a few moments to just tune in with how we're feeling right now in this body. So we can just close our eyes, take some deep breaths. Letting go of whatever else was happening in our lives before coming here to this session. And just bringing all of our attention here now. And there's nothing to do, just experience whatever is here. And whatever is here is absolutely welcome to just be exactly as it is. We just acknowledge it, notice it. And as we bring our attention more and more to what is here now, out of the dreams of thought, even if there are thoughts, that's not a problem. We just are giving more attention to what is arising presently. So even if there are thoughts, we just acknowledge, yes, this is a thought, without opening up all the stories going off into a fantasy. This is what's here now. And as we're bringing more and more attention to this present experience, we might also start to tune into that boundlessness that is our true nature, that always is here, It doesn't go anywhere. No matter what the experience is, there is boundlessness that knows it. So every experience arises in boundlessness. And this boundlessness can only be known presently. It's not something we can remember from the past or imagine. It's not a concept. It's not an idea or an attitude. Even the word boundlessness doesn't really say it. And this boundlessness is not any particular kind of experience. It's beyond all experience. And this is what I mean when I talk about who you really are. You are this boundlessness. Because you have no boundaries. You have no limitations. And this is known presently, only ever presently. It can't be grasped by the mind and taken into the next moment. So then let's take some deeper breaths again and bring our attention back to this body sensations, the sensation of the breath passing through the body. Sensation of the feet on the ground or the bum on the seat. And then when you're ready, we can open our eyes. So, as I said in this meditation, that actually boundlessness is who we are. This is our true nature. And this is not something that I suggest you just agree with me or believe in or something like that. This is something that you can investigate and know for yourself without doubt. You can check, where are my boundaries actually? When I don't believe in my thoughts, where are the boundaries to who I am? Usually we believe that my boundaries are the edges of my skin. In other words, I'm located in here, and therefore the edges or the boundaries of who I am, the edges of the skin. But this is a belief that I am located in here. If I don't believe that, then I'm not located anywhere. Or you could say I'm just here. And even here is maybe even too much to say. The thinking will come with certain boundaries of time, for example. I'm here now, or tomorrow, or yesterday, or location, stories of me and my limitations. But when we don't believe in thoughts, and this doesn't mean that the thoughts should just stop. They won't necessarily just stop, but we just don't believe in them. So we don't give them so much attention. Then there is simply boundlessness. And of course, I'm using that word as a pointer. It's not a word for the thinking to grasp and say, yes, okay, and now I believe in boundlessness. It's beyond all words. And it seems that when we use words sometimes, that they can seem like boundaries. That's why sometimes we can also have a resistance to even using words when it comes to this recognition of who we are. It can seem almost as if every word is like a limitation, and actually our true knowing is beyond all of these apparent limitations. But when we know our true nature as that true boundlessness, that true freedom that's beyond all of these words, then we can use words. We can play in the playground of apparent boundaries and limitations. We can pretend that there are boundaries, or that we need boundaries, or that we could break free from limitations or boundaries. All the while knowing that there are never any boundaries, that I am always boundless. And this is the paradox of this theme for today, this how do we set boundaries in boundlessness? Because, of course, sometimes in our human experience, there is a need for boundaries. We might be in a situation where we feel it's too much for this human, right? This human is finding it overwhelming or feeling threatened in some way for whatever reason. It might be time to say, hang on a moment, this is too much for me. Or to say, well, okay, now I need time for myself or time to rest. Or it might be a moment to say, I'm sorry, I don't like the way you're speaking to me or the way you're behaving with me. Or it's time to get out of a certain situation that you're in, or relationship, or circumstances, or environment. And this is absolutely okay to set these boundaries when we feel it's too much for this human. And it's time to actually protect this human, take care and nourish this human. And we can do that knowing that this is a play as if there are boundaries. And this can be quite confusing. I often hear from people that they've taken on this idea of boundlessness or freedom to mean that I should always just accept every situation and never set any boundaries. And this is more the intellectual way of taking on this knowing as a concept and a trying to do that. There's no need to try to do boundlessness because it's who you are. You don't need to do that. If you would need to do that, it would be a lot of effort. And that's what a lot of spiritual seekers are doing, right? You might recognize this for yourself, that you're making a lot of effort to become what you already are, which is a joke, actually. But at the same time, it's all that the thinking can do. See, when you recognize the boundlessness that is already here, this is the end of any need to do anything. It doesn't mean that you don't do things, but it's the end of the need to do something in order to become a certain state, which means that you are then free to play in the world of this human and the relative world in any way, right? And of course, it's happening out of control. So you're free to play, and yet this is the paradox of freedom anyway. It plays by itself, and in fact, you're watching the show. But still, within the play of it, there is the play as if there are boundaries sometimes. We can't walk through walls, right? There are certain limitations in our relationships with others. There are going to be certain boundaries that are very natural. Sometimes, if we overrun someone else's boundaries, we need to respect that. We need to take care of our own needs in this human play. And this is how we interact with others sensitively, right? We stay sensitive to what is needed moment to moment. And it's not a concept. It's feeling into what is real right now. Where is the energy flowing in this moment in this human experience? Does it feel too much? Do I need to take care right now of myself? or if someone else says this is a boundary, it's time to also feel, okay, yeah, I can feel that that's a boundary now. Let's take a step back. And it's a wonderful play to stay sensitive to that in the play of the human experience. Knowing this paradox that is always here. Boundlessness and the play as if the boundaries are real. And actually, paradoxically, when we set certain boundaries in our relating or in taking care of this human, this actually enables a lot more freedom. Because as long as we are trying to please others, or we're running with other patterns where we are overrunning our own boundaries, actually, we don't feel free. It's an idea of freedom, but we don't really feel free. When we take care of the boundaries that are necessary for this human or the others in our lives, then actually we're free and we can really relax within those boundaries. And this is something you need to experiment for yourself in your own experience. Because when we state very clearly that this is too much or this is overwhelming or this is what I need, then there can be a deep relaxation in that. When we are honest and transparent, open, real, in a sensitive way, this brings a sense of freedom for this human in this play of experience. And when this human feels more free in the play, then there's more living of that boundlessness within the play of apparent boundaries. Well, I'd love to hear from you how that plays out for you, because I'm sure that there are situations in your life which bring up this paradox of boundlessness and boundaries. So yeah, if you would like to have a dialogue, you can just raise your hand. And you can also type a question or share something in the chat as well. Jean-Marc, is that a hand up?
Hello, Unmani.
Hi.
I don't feel respected when someone goes past what I need or what I asked from him or her. And it's, yes, something I feel, and it's very uncomfortable, and it's difficult to say to that person, you went too far.
Yeah. Yeah, what makes it difficult, do you feel?
Yeah, I can say, but in a way, it's too late. It's done, already done. I asked for something and I have something else, more, or maybe
Mm.
so.
Yeah, it's a thin line to walk, isn't it? Really, that, you know, we can learn to experiment more and more in our lives with asking for what we need or saying this is too much, you've overrun a boundary. And I say experiment because sometimes we need to experiment with going really over, like to expressing yourself in a really strong way, maybe just
Mhm.
to feel that you can. And then maybe you feel, oh, maybe I was a bit too strong there. I was a bit harsh, maybe. Um,
Mhm.
so then maybe you bring it back to, okay, the other extreme. Oh, actually, that was too little. I need to stand up stronger there. And you experiment with finding the middle ground.
Staying alive, I would say,
Yes.
not dead, not aggressive
Yeah.
in a way.
Yes. You just stay with what feels true for you in the moment.
Mhm. Moment to moment, in fact.
Yeah. That's all we have, really, moment to moment, which is why it's not a formula. It's
Mhm.
not like you can say, okay, every time you're in that situation, you always behave like this. No, it's alive and it's real. So we just respond moment to moment because sometimes it's okay that someone overruns a boundary that maybe in the past you would have thought, oh, well, that was my boundary and they've well overrun it. But in this moment, actually, it's kind of okay. I can handle it. It's needed in this moment.
Mhm.
So it's not something to be so strict about, but at the same time, you know, to feel when it's
Yes, but when it happens again and again and again, it's a bit painful.
yeah,
You say it and it happens again.
yeah. Then it can also be an invitation to look at maybe there's some other pattern playing out there. Um, you know, why is it that you're in that kind of situation? Let's say, um,
Mhm.
have you put yourself in that situation? Perhaps you're trying to please.
Because I would say because I made compromises.
Mm.
It's not over with Veronique, but I made some compromise. So I compromised myself in some way. And okay, I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the reflection that life reflects back, right?
Yes, it's life says, oh,
Exactly. Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we need to play that out, until we see, okay, this is
it took some time.
yeah, sometimes it does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Jean-Marc.
thank you, thank you.
Ivan.
Hi, Unmani. How are you?
Hi. Good. Thank
Hi.
you. Nice to hear
Good to
you.
talk to you. Yeah. Um, so my question is, how do we how do we play with thoughts, knowing that thoughts are not ultimately true? Um, I do notice that when I have positive thoughts, the body feels better versus when I have negative thoughts or no thoughts, what's like no thoughts at all, where I go into that boundlessness space as you were talking, which is not an experience. Thought is an experience. It's the human experience.
Yeah.
I guess trying to ask is, I'm in the process right now of integrating the human experience to who I really am, which is this alive presence. It can't be found, it can't be seen, but it's what's speaking these words and looking through my eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
Okay, good.
you can't do the integrating, of course. It happens by itself.
Yeah, that's the other part. There's no one doing anything. There's no ownership. Life is not taking ownership.
Yeah. Yeah. So your question initially was, how do you play with thought? Is that what you were asking?
Yes, yes.
How do you play with thought? Meaning, yeah. What do you mean, really?
So when I have positive thoughts, or at least I think I'm the one having positive thoughts, the body responds immediately. Like I feel better when I have positive thoughts, versus when I have negative thoughts, which I'm not choosing anything, which is the crazy part. The body reacts to that and it believes that. So I'm trying to find the integration between.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, yes, it's understandable that when you have positive thoughts, you feel positive, and when you have negative thoughts, you feel negative. The body just responds. But it's all thought, right? And thought is very powerful in that way. So you can put energy into trying to change your thoughts to positive thoughts, but you can also just see where you're feeding negative thoughts, or indeed any thoughts. And that, I would say, is more the integration part. It's not about trying to become more positive. It's about seeing where you are buying into or believing thoughts that actually feed a limited identity. And actually it can even be positive thoughts, so-called positive thoughts. It's usually negative ones that limit, but it can very well also be positive thoughts. And when we see that I'm buying into this thought, then I'm already free. So it's no need to change negative thoughts to positive ones, because they're all just thoughts. And every thought, actually, when you believe in it, is limited.
Yes.
So true
Okay.
freedom is beyond all thoughts.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. I noticed that I was resisting certain feelings, like you said, even the thoughts, which are really just those sensations in the body. And that's why I was trying to have more positive thoughts. But like I said, I know thoughts are not ultimately true, and I agree they are limited. But it's just something in the body that, so if I don't have thoughts, I guess there is a sense of peace, and we can say love, even though I haven't really experienced that. I think, or I don't know, love is not what we think it is. But it just seems like, isn't thought part of the human integration process? Like, because I don't want to, and I know that I'm speaking with my ego here, so it's gonna sound sort of like I want, I what I want is to love this human. Okay, I don't want to neglect the human. I don't want to neglect the body. I've spent a lot of time not looking at how the body feels. So if I feel afraid, I
I
just ignore it.
I hear you. So it's not about neglecting this body at all. It's about, first of all, seeing that it's all, thoughts or beliefs, they're all thoughts and beliefs, right? No matter what beautiful thoughts or beliefs they are thoughts. And therefore, they are not ultimate truth. And when you recognize that, then you, of course, are free then to play with thoughts. You could, see, okay, I'm believing something negative about myself. Like, let's say I'm believing there's something wrong with me. Well, okay, instead of believing that, I'm going to change that belief that there's something wrong with me and belief that I'm great. Now, of course, your experience in the body will be much improved. But it's an effort to keep changing the negative thoughts to positive thoughts. Actually, what I find is, let's say, a deeper or longer term integration for this human, for this body, is in seeing, okay, yeah, I'm believing that there's something wrong with me. And how does that feel in my body? Oh, yeah, there's some pain, that feels really painful. And maybe there's a story there, like from childhood or some trauma or whatever. Yes, we can explore that and feel it. But then it comes to, okay, I'm feeding that identity that I'm someone who's got something wrong with me. And when I don't believe that thought anymore, I'm left just with feeling the sensation, the pain. Yeah. And just feeling the raw pain without any story or a limited story, let's say, or can see the story that it's not true. This leaves us with a very raw experience. But that is, when we can just see it and feel it, that is embraced naturally by our true nature that is aware of it all, that boundlessness that is always boundless, even when there's an experience of feeling pain. And that, knowing that paradox, experiencing that paradox, actually is very healing. Maybe not immediately, but actually it's like it invites all these parts of ourselves that are, have been playing as if they've been separate. It invites all these parts of ourselves to come to rest, to come home, to be embraced as part of or who we are, in fact.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very, very helpful. Yeah, I think my issue is that I somehow have an idea that thoughts create our experience. And I guess I know what I don't want to feel, that when I put my attention onto what I want to feel, it just feels better, and it makes the experience much better.
Then we can get addicted to trying to make our experience better. And it's an endless effort. And we're trying to make the experience better and then pushing away the experiences we think we shouldn't experience or we don't want to experience because they're uncomfortable. And this is feeding this idea that first of all, that we have control over our lives, but also that parts of our experience are not included or not okay or not welcome. But in fact, our true nature is unconditional love. And unconditionally includes everything. It's only the thinking that says, I don't want this, or I want this, I prefer that experience to that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I probably just haven't, not that it's something that I have to do, which is, be myself, which I already am, which I've found the whole paradox. I can't become what I am because I am that. But who we are is like no experience, and that doesn't mean that it's like empty and that nothing happens. That's what I'm understanding, that somehow I haven't really experienced that, my true essence.
Yeah, it also sounds like you're trying to understand it with your mind, and that
Yeah.
can't be understood by your mind, And so I would say to you, just keep seeing that thoughts can't know it or can't do it. And this leaves you with what is again and again. And this is a good place to start and finish, This is in fact all that there is.
Yeah. No, that's much more clear, especially when I was listening to some of the your friends, Lisa Kearns, I believe, on YouTube, and she was talking about, like, where do thoughts come from or arise, and to really explore that. And yeah, they come from this nothingness, from what I am, and so it's like I'm either believing the negative thoughts or the positive thoughts, but ultimately they're just ideas of what I think it represents, but ultimately it means nothing. And so to sort of go back into that nothingness, which is really everything.
Yeah, it's beyond
So
all these words, actually.
yeah, it's crazy.
That's the thing, like that's why it's nothing to do with the thoughts or the words. And you can look at the source of all thoughts or all words. And that leaves you, in any way, in any direction, in any possible way, to come back to the nothingness. That's all what it's all about, or presence. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mani.
Shar.
Sorry, I just have to correct my video to stop it from wandering all over the place.
It seems fine to me.
That's all right. I've got it now. It's all right. Never mind. It reacts to hand movements. So when I put my hand up, it started to track my hand. I was trying to think how to put this question, and before you got to the end with the last gentleman, an answer came to me, and then as you were answering the gentleman, it was pretty much the same answer. And I find that quite funny. The last several years have been, I'm not going to go into them in detail, but they've been difficult. And in the last few years, I've been dealing with childhood trauma. But also in the last several years, what is more present, and stillness is felt. And when I have a query, when I have an issue, if I start to write it down, it generally gets answered. There's just this feeling of knowing what the answer is. And it's a similar thing if I sit down with myself and just ask the question. However, there is something I was diagnosed with a couple of years ago that doesn't seem to have an answer. But before you got to the end of the last question, my thought was, this can't be answered in a question. It can only be answered in the experience. And so now I've got a fascinating future ahead of me. Basically, a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed as autistic. And one of the aspects of autism is I don't actually have any boundaries. I don't recognize boundaries, and it's gotten me into trouble with a lot of people because I just don't see them. But logically, I know what they are, and I know what the person is talking to me about. But the odds are that sometime in the future, I'll just walk over it again. And I'll sit having the same conversation with them, and they'll be, but I told you. And I'll say, oh, I know you told me. I even remember the conversation. And they say, but why did you walk over it? I didn't see it. It's just not there. And that was the thought in this boundlessness in a world of boundaries. So I have these moments in my life which are autistic, and they strangely can't be seen in the same way that life is seen. And I find this really bizarre, to say the least, because I can sit with a thought, something's gone wrong in a relationship, and I sit with the thought and I have my answers. But it doesn't work the same way with the neurodivergent. And so I think, like I just said, I think the only answer is not in a question, it's in the experience. So as this oneness, this beingness kind of encapsulates more, perhaps even looking at the possibility of unity taking place, the answer comes there. But I just don't know. So it's one of those things where I just...
Sometimes there aren't answers in thoughts. I mean, you know, it's just, or there can be words that come, but there's a sense of knowing. You know, I would use those words, like just a sense of knowing. And the words are always going to be limited in the same way thoughts are limited as well. So
yeah, I was just creating a drawing actually before I signed on today, and the label to the drawing is thoughts are layers of words. Thank you. Yeah.
thank you for expressing what you have. Thank you. Dennis.
Hi, Unmani. Good to see you.
And you.
I've been a counselor for over 30 years, and I see most of these human boundary problems as being just old programming, mostly from trauma and stuff like that. And I don't really have a problem with those kind of boundaries. But I feel like the universe is a boundary. It's like I'm trapped inside a box. And occasionally I've seen beyond that, many times actually, but it's always brief. And I know it's not complete, but it's always amazing. Like the last time I talked to you, I had seen that the thinker was an illusion. And then I saw that the character is an illusion. And then it comes back. So it feels like, and when I see those things, it's like, it's not like an experience. It's not like I know something. It's like my view expands. And it's like, it's just happening. And there's this amazing freedom. And but when it comes back, it feels like I'm somehow making that happen. Like I'm somehow I come back to participating in this game. And my question is, how can I participate and not participate? Because I know it's just happening, but and I use, like right now, I have a condition that recently has brought on a lot of pains, chronic pain. And that's okay, you know, but I'm using that. It's like, that's kind of um, it's kind of a way, it's like I'm measuring like how much am I suffering versus how much there's just nothing happening. And so I've come a long way, but I guess that's just my question. Like, because when I see the bigger picture, is I guess there's part of me that feels like I have to hold on to it. And then of course that's gonna slip away. So and the whole sense of it's like my whole ego is about it's created by this participation, and
But
it's hard to it's go ahead.
no, just to understand what you mean by participation in in life, or right.
Oh,
In like thinking that I'm in it. Is that what you mean?
it's a subtle thing. It's like somehow I'm holding on to this ego thing. Somehow I'm holding on to like being a person or being separate. And when I see the difference, there's nothing I can say about that. I can't tell myself that, hey, I can do this. It just happens and there's nothing being done. So when I come back to like thinking I'm a human and realizing that I've seen this greater truth, there's this subtle sense of I somehow brought myself out of the truth. And so that's, you know, I
Yeah.
usually don't.
These things, these different experiences happen by themselves. They, and then the thinking can say, well, I did it. It kind of claims the effort that has been made, but yeah, these experiences happen by themselves.
It feels like more than a thought. It feels like some kind of almost like energetic shift. Like, because usually before I would snap out of it very quickly, like, whoa, this is too much. Like everything I believe is not true. It's like I had to think about that and then came out of it. So
Maybe in that moment it feels a bit scary.
yeah, but now it's not. The last time it was just confusing. Like, well, if I'm not that, what am I?
Yes, and disorientating, which, okay, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
scary, but still somehow a little bit uncomfortable.
yeah,
So in those moments, instead of trying to understand or come out of the confusion, I would actually say that confusion is a good thing, because it's when you think that you know it all, that's when you're kind of stuck, right? But when you're confused, actually you're seeing that you can't know, that you don't know. You're seeing more of the mystery of it, right? So then if you feel confused, then bring the attention to the body, and it might be uncomfortable, but that's what's here to be felt. It's
yeah.
the mind also that wants to find a way out of confusion, with the idea that when I find the way out, then I'll have clarity. So it looks for the way out through more thinking. But actually, the way out of confusion is always here.
Yeah, that helps because um, it's like the thing to do is to do nothing, but to not actually like try to do nothing.
Just
It's
to say,
just,
well, okay, here's confusion.
yeah.
Okay, you know, it's
I see. So the confusion brought me back to a person being confused. You know,
well,
it was,
you realize, okay, what is confusion? It's like I'm trying to understand. What does this mean?
yeah,
And it's like circling, trying to find a way out of this circling. And it's, you know, it tries to find a way out of circling by circling more. Imagining that there's must be a door out of this circling, keeps looking, where's the door? Where's the door? But there's no door. It's just circling happening with the hope of finding the way out, and the hope fuels the circling. So, you know, there's never going to be a door out. It's always just going to be doors into more circling. So realizing that and getting to know that that's what's always going to happen with any kind of confusion or trying to understand. It's always going to be hopeless, absolutely futile. It's always just going to be the thinking promoting more thinking. And then actually, how does that feel in the body? Maybe in the body, there's a feeling of restlessness or agitation, or maybe shallow breath, you know, maybe some tension in the jaw or some contraction, or, you know, whatever it is for you. And so you feel that. And then, oh, you're already out of confusion and you're back to simplicity. You may not have the perfect answer to your confusion, but actually you do have the perfect answer, because the perfect answer is always here. Just nothing, here now. Oh yeah, of course, it's just simple. You know, there's no answer.
Yeah, that was my participation. I see it now. Is trying to understand this. How do I understand this now that I see this? And that's subtly the sneaky mind coming back in saying, how do I fit this into?
Yeah, how do you hold on to it and bring it into your life or something? But you can't. It's already here. It's always here. It's always much more simple than we think.
Now that I see that, I think that I can just see it, you know, next time. Or right now.
Thought was, so let's hold on to this and bring it into next time.
Yeah.
And that's just what thought does. It doesn't do anything wrong. It's just, okay, yeah. It's sweet. It's funny, you know.
Thank you. That helps.
Thank you. Any last question or sharing? I see, Ivan, you've typed something. Is the cause and the effect just another thought to justify that thought? Thought is great at justifying itself in all kinds of very clever ways. Yeah, well, cause and effect. It seems as if there is cause and effect. And that's the play of time and space. And we play as if one thing can cause another thing. That's the play, that play as if, the play of time, the play of the horizontal, right, of the human relative world. But this play is happening in the timeless. And so there is no cause and effect, ultimately. There's just this. And in fact, there's not even this, right? This present moment is already too much time, which brings us back to nothing. Nothing happening at all. So the short answer to your question is yes. Thank you. So I think we'll stop there for today. And just to let you know that the next live stream will be on the theme of how to love yourself on the 21st of August. And also we still have places at the Heart of Freedom 10-day retreat in Portugal coming up in October. And I'd love to see you there. It's going to be a beautiful, very intense journey together. So yeah, really looking forward to that. So if you'd like to see more information, it's on my website. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. It's been lovely to see you. Okay, see you next time. Bye-bye.